Welcome back to the King Films 2020 March Madness acceptance rate bracket. So the rules of this bracket are simple. I'm going to be picking the team that has the lowest acceptance rate, and the source I'm going to be using is Google, because I type it into Google and then whichever one is lowest of the two teams, I select and they win. So the lowest acceptance rate is going to win this bracket as opposed to the highest. Starting with the top left regional, we've got Gonzaga against Norfolk State and App State, and Gonzaga is going to win this one pretty easily. Next game, we've got Oklahoma and Missouri. Oklahoma is going to barely edge out Missouri here. Creighton, UC Santa Barbara. I'm going to take UCSB as they have a lower acceptance rate. UVA is also going to win their matchup against Ohio. In the second round, in this top left quadrant, Gonzaga is going to beat Oklahoma. UVA is going to beat UCSB, and then UVA is going to earn their spot in the Elite Eight. On the bottom, USC is going to beat Wichita State and Drake. Kansas is going to beat Eastern Washington. A note about this game is Kansas has a 93% acceptance rate, which I thought would garner an easy win for Eastern Washington, but I believe Eastern Washington has the highest acceptance rate on here at 95.6, again, according to Google. So that is an interesting nugget there. Oregon's going to beat VCU just barely by a couple of percentage points, and Iowa is going to lose to Grand Canyon. In the second round games, USC obviously is going to beat Kansas at that 93 I already mentioned, and Grand Canyon beats Oregon to continue their FGCU-esque Cinderella run. USC is then going to beat Grand Canyon and beat UVA to send them to the first Final Four spot. This top right quadrant is also competitive. Baylor beats Hartford with an under 50% acceptance rate, but they will face a second round exit from UNC, which is in the 20s in acceptance rate. So that is a very strong contender here. Villanova, also in the 20s, is going to beat Winthrop, and Purdue is going to beat North Texas. And of course, Nova is going to beat Purdue there. UNC will clean up Nova by a couple percentage points. And on the bottom, it's a little less competitive. We've got Texas Tech over Utah State, which has over 90% acceptance rate. And Colgate is going to beat Arkansas with relative ease. Florida also has one in the mid-30s, so they're going to be a strong contender for the Sweet 16 here, beating Virginia Tech in this game. Ohio State's going to beat Oral Roberts, and then Florida will beat Ohio State, and Colgate will finish off Florida to make for an 8-14 very interesting Elite Eight. So far in the bracket, we haven't had too many major upsets besides Colgate and Grand Canyon going so far, but otherwise this is a pretty plausible bracket for March Madness, at least through round one. UNC is going to clean up Colgate there, and let's move on to the bottom right quadrant. Illinois is going to get past Drexel in the first round, and Georgia Tech is going to get past Loyola Chicago. Georgia Tech's going to then beat Illinois with an acceptance rate in the 20s. Tennessee is going to beat Oregon State, and Liberty is going to beat Oklahoma State in that matchup. Liberty's then going to beat Tennessee to send them against Georgia Tech, but Georgia Tech is ultimately going to win that game. San Diego State is a prime contender in this bottom quadrant with an acceptance rate in the 30s, and Morehead State's going to beat WVU in the 14-3 upset. Clemson's going to beat Rutgers, and Houston is going to edge out Cleveland State by a few percentage points. Clemson in the 7 then advances to the next round to play number 6 SDSU, who got past Morehead State. SDSU then solidifies their case in the Elite Eight, but ultimately falls to a strong 20% acceptance rate Georgia Tech team. In the bottom left quadrant, I think this is the most competitive quadrant from a acceptance rate standpoint. We've got Michigan going to beat Mount St. Mary's and Texas Southern, and then LSU's going to edge out St. Bonaventure. Georgetown, a very strong contender with a teens acceptance rate, is going to play FSU in the next round, who edged out UNC Greensboro. Georgetown's then going to make light work of them. And Michigan, which has an acceptance rate in the 20s, is a strong contender in any other bracket, but Georgetown in the teens, again, is going to win that game and send themselves to the Elite Eight. On the bottom, UCLA is the team that is going to win the MSU game, and then they're going to again beat BYU as they have an acceptance rate in the teens as well. Texas also has a pretty respectable acceptance rate in the 30s, I believe. UCLA will clean them up in the second round, but Texas would have been a strong contender in maybe that bottom right region, to be specific. Maryland's going to edge out UConn, and Bama is going to round out the field in the second round. Maryland will then clean up Bama, but ultimately lose to UCLA, who ultimately beats Georgetown to send themselves to the Final Four. So as you can see here with these Elite Eight games, we have a lot of 6 seeds and some 11 and 12, some double digit, a lot of diversity here, but no ones. So this bracket is probably only going to be good after the first round, if that. Again, we've got 2 14s and a 15 winning, so we'll see what happens. But a pretty respectable bracket after round 1. Goes downhill from there is the summary so far. So in the Final Four, we've got UCLA, USC in a battle of the crosstown rivalry. And again, this could be very wrong or not updated, but Google says that USC has the better acceptance rate by about a point. So they're going to win the third matchup of those teams this season. And Georgia Tech is going to edge out UNC in the ACC matchup. So we had 2 conference matchups in the Final Four and no seed below a 6, which is also worth noting in these little random brackets. And then USC is going to beat the much weaker right side as a whole, as there were multiple teams on the left that could have beat out the best contender, Georgia Tech, for a spot as the national champion. Thank you for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe and comment your thoughts below.